Winkler.
Here.
Hajewski.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Monday.
Present.
And Traxler is excused. It was publicly posted.
So move.
Second. Aye.
All against? Motion carries. Approved minutes from May 11th, 2023, Planning Commission meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 11th, 2023.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? All right, I don't see any citizens. We don't have Zoom meetings anymore, do we?
Not unless it's specifically requested.
Okay. All right, any unfinished business? I don't see any. New business, review and discuss the request of a conditional use permit renewal for applicant Hunter Frank to operate a home occupation at 259 Oak Street. You want to give a little summary of?
Yep. So those of you that were here in May, you got to do the first trial of our conditional use permit renewal ordinance. We created this within the last year or so to make it a little bit slightly easier process for applicants that were given approval for a one-year trial period if they request no changes in their plan. So Hunter Frank's conditional use permit was approved in 2022 to do a home-based occupation offering firearm sales, ammunition sales, gunsmithing, archery, technician services, sales of other small miscellaneous firearm and hunting-related accessories. Hours of operation, 3 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, weekend hours available by appointment. No general signage allowed at the property except for a single magnetic sign that he puts on the garage indicating when he is open and only when he's open. And that he has 4 parking spots available in his driveway so that it leaves the right-of-way empty. There's no changes to the proposed building. So there's an out-full site plan, building plan, stormwater plans, lighting, landscaping plans, stuff of that nature. I did reach out. I sent a letter to all the neighboring homeowners. I reached out to the police department. I looked through our files. I have not seen any complaints. I'm not going to go through all the standards for the home-based occupation, but his request does meet all of them except for number 2, which requires them to only be able to sell products that they make or manufacture out of their home. That was waived last year. It's a pretty easy one to waive. Some of the other restrictions that were put on him were firearms must be kept in a safe or other secure location at all times. Security system must be maintained for the premises, and that he can hold no more than 5 firearms waiting for pickup at any given time. Next is kind of the standards that Plan Commission can read through. And then our recommendation is that it's a pretty well-planned, reasonable in nature request. It was approved in 2022 for the one-year trial period. There have been new issues. I would, as staff, recommend approving it with the same conditions except for the one change. I would remove the one-year trial period and make it an indefinite time period or until the property is sold or transferred to a subsequent owner. Mr. Frank could not be here today. He had a pre-planned vacation.
So did I hear you right? So number 2 was waived in the original conditional use?
Correct.
Okay, so if we renew and it'll be part of that as well?
Correct.
Okay.
If the business were to grow and traffic increased or things changed or neighbors changed, what would a citizen's process be if there was a problem.
Yep, they could call the city, they could call the police department to file a complaint if it got to that nature. Otherwise, they could reach out to the city administrator, the planning director, any city staff, and they could make a complaint. We would, of course, go out and check it out. If he, of course, was not meeting the terms of his conditional use permit, he would be asked to come back here and either amend his plan, or we would have to have some discussions on, why he's not meeting the restriction.
Are there other businesses in town with a similar arrangement?
As far as firearm sales?
No, as far as like being out of compliance with one of the, home-based businesses that don't.
I haven't had
Strictly
any in
meet
the
the
year
purpose.
plus that I've been here. They've all kept, relatively quiet.
Brandon, I have a question. On the top of the page prior to the recommendation, so second to last page, top, there is another firearms dealer in town, and these 5 bullet points, I think, pertain to that one. That's where it says, in 2020, a firearms dealer was approved for home occupation.
Yeah, I think
that was
that-
from the prior application from Mr. Frank, because.
Yeah, and it was a typo. I didn't change
Okay,
the
so
date.
these conditions are the ones
Yes,
that are
the-
on Mr. Frank?
Yes, these are ones from Mr.
Okay.
Frank, yes, and I just must have typed in 2020 and not 2022.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't the example given from the other place in town. Okay, thanks.
So I only have one question. So did he get his federal firearms license?
I would assume so, but that'd be something I'd have to double check if there's a question on
I
it.
know he had to get the conditional use from us before he could apply.
Okay.
And I know it was, the application is the size of a book these days. If you could verify that, that'd be great, because I think that was one of the big contingencies for him having this business, because he wanted to do third-party federal firearm.
The guy to do the permits and get
Yeah,
the background checks.
yeah, so he
and-
became a third-party person that people could purchase guns online, they could come to him because he's licensed, and then they could pick it up. That's my only concern.
All right, yeah, I will verify that. I would just, if you're going to approve this tonight, I would make a motion to that effect that, pending, the verification that he received those permits. And if he did not, then we'll kick it back to next month, if that's the will of the planning commission.
Yeah, if there's no more discussion, I guess, entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to approve with a 3-year period so that it had a chance to be reviewed in the future as business might change, and contingent upon the licensing that was mentioned.
I would say if his business was gonna change, he would have to do it anyway. So to put that stipulation on somebody and it stays the same 3 years from now, and then they have to come back. How much does it cost to do this? Isn't it like hundreds of dollars, right?
For the full process, and that would have included any changes, that's $400, or a new startup is $400. For just straight renewal with no changes, we dropped it to $200.
I think we had that same discussion with the last meeting, was, if we extend it forever, how do we get out of it if something goes bad? And we have that right. If there's some violations, it's brought to our attention.
Well, that was my concern, is if the neighbors weren't happy with it, give them a chance to come to an open meeting and discuss it if there was ever a problem. Great that there wasn't, but just business could increase, things could change, neighbors could change.
So as long as somebody made a complaint, Brandon, please verify, if somebody made a complaint, that would trigger a meeting?
It would depend on the nature of the complaint. I would probably, or me, or whoever is the planning director would probably go out and check on it first and verify and, make sure there's, it made sense. And if it would make sense to bring it to a meeting, yes. If not, if something that could be worked out with a neighbor, we would probably try to go that route first. But it really depends on the nature of it.
I have a concern with putting the 3-year stipulation on there because we set the precedence at last meeting for I think it was a bed and breakfast, to be able to have it unconditionally and then, or, extend it until the person sold their property. And I think that just because it is a different business does not mean we should treat it any differently. That still is no complaints. We can still bring it back at any point if there is complaints or issues. I think it's just gonna cost this business owner money to bring it back in 3 years. And I just think that we should have standards with how we approve and treat all businesses that have no complaints or no issues.
So I'm going to agree with that, and I'm going to tell you why. Because when this originally came up, there was concern from other members on council or on the commission that because it was firearms, that it was going to be treated differently, and it shouldn't. As long as they meet all the guidelines, whether it's butterfly cages or firearms, it should be treated equally.
I move to amend the motion.
No,
Nope.
you can't
You
do that.
can't, oh, because it's
So-
not seconded.
See,
Somebody
right,
has to second
we should
it,
have
that's
had a
right.
second before we did the.
Yes.
But that's fine. Do we have
Yeah.
a second on the
Yep.
initial motion from Commissioner Hajewski? Any seconds? Motion fails.
So now can I make a motion?
Entertain.
All right. I move to approve the conditional use permit renewal for applicant Hunter Frank to operate a home occupation at 259 Oak Street. And what's the wording that I have to use?
I would say with the conditions in the staff report, contingent on the applicant having obtained the proper federal permits.
With the condition in the staff report and Hunter Frank obtaining the federal firearms license, is that what it is?
that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the conditional use permit to not expire unless he moves, and if any changes, has to come back?
I'll second that.
We have a first, we have a second. All in favor?
Any discussion?
Oh, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion passes.
I move to adjourn?
Yes, I'm looking for a motion. I was gonna ask a question on, I understand he's on vacation, but I think this discussion, they probably should be here.
I advise them that they should be here in case there are any questions from staff or the plan commission. But he wasn't available, and we already bumped it from June. He didn't want to wait till August because his permit would have already expired. So we pushed it through. And no, obviously, if you guys really want him here, you could have, tabled it
Yeah,
and we bring him
no,
back,
no.
but, yeah.
All right. Enter. Is that a first or a second?
That's a second.
That's a second.
I did first.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Meeting is adjourned. Get back to your enchiladas.